On this edition of the Table of Content, we are joined by Matthew Wojtechko, a volunteer to We Are One Body Audio Theatre. We'll talk with him about some of his contributions and what he hopes to do down the road. Stay tuned. That's coming up next right here on the Table of Content. Thanks so much for tuning in to this edition of the Table of Content. I am your host, Albert Saenz, and we have the pleasure of being joined today by Matthew Wojtechko. Matthew, thanks so much for being with us.
Sure thing. Well, thanks for asking me to come on.
So, Matthew, as always, I like to give the audience an opportunity to learn a little bit more about our guest. So if you could give a sort of brief synopsis of who you are, what you do, and how you even came to audio theater, I'd love to hear from you.
Sure. Well, I went to school at St. Vincent College in Latrobe, so I'm was nearby to the audio theater. My brother works at the audio theater, so I have a connection there. And so, because of that, I sort of am aware of what's going on there, and like when you guys, that's sort of how I got into doing some volunteering for the audio theater. And so, so a couple instances, I know a voice was needed, and I auditioned, and that's how I got involved. But so I went to college in St. Vincent in Latrobe. I studied computer science. I minored in psychology. I'm interested in video game development, and and I enjoy acting, and I do a lot of I have done a lot of stage acting, like in high school and in college. Done many shows, so I have experience acting. So being a voice actor, it was something I was comfortable with, was something I was open to doing with the audio theater, and sort of happy to help out and be a part of stuff.
So it's an interesting combination. You said you minored in psychology, right?
Yeah.
So you have computer science, you have psychology, you're interested in video games, and you've done a lot of acting. I wouldn't say that sounds like the normal combination for most people. More normally, there's sometimes a similar path along all the facets that they're interested in, but that's quite a good spread. So you have a genuine interest in all of those topics.
Yeah, I mean, when I came in, that's it. Yeah, I'm interested in a lot of things. When I came into college, it's hard to sort of pick what you want to do.
Sure.
Like in high school, I was interested in, like the first few years of high school, I liked English, and I was, pretty good at, pretty decent at English, and I was taking some, advanced English classes and that sort of thing. I also took a programming class, and I enjoyed that, and that was sort of, mainly like the second half of my high schooling, and and I liked the sort of the logical aspect that sort of is in both English when it comes to writing, but also like with computers, with programming. So I opted to major in computer science when I went into college. So I was decided. Technically speaking, my major was decided, but I was pretty undecided with what I wanted to do and if I made the right choice and stuff. So after a while, I decided I did some stuff with the newspaper because I still liked writing, and that's how I got into that. But I ended up really enjoying that as I kept going. That's why it sort of first spurred me to do that. And so I was trying to think, okay, I'm interested in all these things. Sort of I didn't want to do another major because I didn't think I could take on the amount of work that comes on with a second major. So I opted for a minor. I was trying to think what would sort of, we said, with the breadth, it would sort of be an area that I'm not really getting right now. And so I sort of went with a minor in psychology. And that sort of goes with, sort of what I want to do with computer science, because, I am interested in making things that are, more artistic. And so that's sort of a natural fit for video games. And that's also sort of why I minored in psychology, because, I want to, study that human element. So, that's sort of how that all worked together. Yeah, and I'm hoping I could sort of put this all to good use. I sort of have faith that I will, just keep pursuing the things I'm interested in. And yeah. and we'll sort of see what happens. But you sort of, as long as you sort of are doing well with where you are now, I sort of like have faith that okay, that means in a year or two you'll be in a good spot as well.
Sure.
So
Yeah, well, more power to you. It sounds like you've got a good path, and you said you've got the
I hope
faith that
so.
you're going to bring it all together. And really, as a side note, on the computer science, I applaud people like yourself that it just sort of clicks. I attempted computer science in college, and it was a complete bomb for me. So I switched to communications, and suddenly I was in my element. So kudos to you for being able to look
Cool.
at a screen full of Booleans, if statements, what ifs.
Yeah, I do enjoy that. Yeah.
So good that there's people like you out there. All right, so let's bring it to audio theater. And you said you were sort of naturally attached to it because of your brother's work with audio theater. And you had an opportunity to audition, and I believe you were first involved with Imaginary Twin. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that's correct. Yep.
So for our listeners, if you haven't listened to Imaginary Twin, make sure you head over to our website or our YouTube channel and take a listen to it. It's one of our, it was one of our, it was originally one of our solo stories, and then we made it into a bigger production for our 0 Hour podcast. So look up 0 Hour, take a listen to it. It really is a fun, interesting sort of out there sort of story. But why don't you go ahead and tell the listeners about your involvement in Imaginary Twin?
Well, so my character, I was like one of the main characters, like brother. So I was more of a side character. But we went up. It was filmed on location, so to speak, which is pretty cool. We filmed in a school to sort of get the right sound and to sort of block it like you would a little bit like a film or something like that, to sort of get some more like authentic sound, I suppose. So so that was pretty neat. Yeah, it was pretty cool to be part of a like a set like that. Because it's like I said, it was sort of like being on a film set, but it's totally different because there's no camera, so it doesn't matter what you look like. It just matters what you sound like. So you're really focusing on, like, if you're doing footsteps, what your footsteps are sounding like, that your emotions, being heard through your voice, because it doesn't matter so much what your face is. It only matters so much as getting your voice to sound right. Sometimes your face can help, your voice.
Right. Well, I remember before y'all started that main recording, I was out there with the staff kind of trying to help set up for just the audio portion, trying to figure out, what would work. We were kind of working through some testing beforehand. And I just remember feeling like this is going to be really cool. Like, because normally we are recording the majority of our productions in a studio environment. So we have, we have all these computers, we have all these microphones, we have, sound treated walls. And, and that all makes sense. Okay, you record in a studio, but then to actually go out, and I appreciate what you said. It's kind of like being on a film set without the movie camera. And it was very gracious of the school to let us record there. And I really think that it did help add a certain sense of realism to the final product. It's a fiction story, but still you like to sort of feel like you're there. I don't know if you kind of sensed, like, even though you were acting, as we say, if you felt like, yeah, this kind of feels like I'm really a student at a school.
Yeah, I might say so. Yeah. It's sort of like I think probably definitely a different feel than like doing it in a studio, like you said, even just because, I don't know, it feels a little bit more, maybe I even say like important. I don't know, like it feels like a little more urgent. Like we have to really do our best with this because like we're on set, and like
sure, yep,
you can't just keep doing it because you have to leave the set eventually, like we expect to get so much done this day, and like you have certain days where you can be in the set, and it's more work being in a set than just like a studio, I suppose. So it's kind of like being on a film set, where it's like you feel really, not want to say pressure, but you feel like that sort of importance on it.
Yep, I understand.
Where it feels a little more grand. Like, okay, we're really like filming this, almost like it's a big movie or something like that.
Well, I think that's good to know. I mean, I'm glad that you felt that way. And I think it's good for us to know at Audio Theater that, we can create a production that we're working on that gives the volunteers that sense of, grandness or importance.
Yeah, I mean, of course, no, I've done some stuff in I've been in the studio before, and that's a good experience too, and that has its advantages, in some ways, just because it's a little bit the opposite. Right? It's a little bit more free. You don't need to worry about where you're standing and that sort of thing. It's probably a little bit easier to look at your words there because it's specially designed for this sort of thing.
Sure.
You probably have a little bit more control over the elements a little bit because it's in your own domain. Like I know when we were filming at that school, it was pretty warm. So
I remember that. I remember it was very warm.
Yeah, that's another thing that probably added that sense of urgency. Just okay, as soon as we can get this, that's good.
So the sooner we can get to something cool outside to drink and some cool air.
Yeah. But definitely it's a good experience film recording in the studio as well. But yeah. Mm-hmm.
Was it now that was not you by yourself? Obviously you had the Audio Theater staff, but you had some other cast members there. You had the young lady who was supposed to be your sister. Then you had the other friends that were sort of I don't want to give too much away for anyone who hasn't heard, but you had the other girls and the other students who were kind of the instigators of the plot, we'll say. Was it nice to sort of work in that sort of team environment and to work with your cast members in that production?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, they were they all did very well. I'm pretty sure I was the oldest one, I think there. I think they're all younger than me.
Oh.
So I thought they did a good job. But they seemed, very experienced and very professional. So that was really cool to see. They seem like people even though they're, younger, they seem like people who were, doing this more than I have, doing maybe performance maybe as much or more than me, despite the fact that I might have been older and I do a lot of performance.
Sure.
So yeah. So that's always good whenever whenever you're acting with people who are really good, and that helps you be good because they're sort of requiring you to be good because you need to try to be just as good. They necessitate you to sort of be up to that level, that standard as well. So, and that's always good to feel like you're with people who know what they're doing. And I should say with the staff, the crew there, I mean that I thought that went well. We have somebody holding the mic and all that, and you feel you sort of. It was a good experience working with everybody. Yeah.
So let's before we run out of time, let's move up to one of your other productions, and it's actually something that we are really excited about, and we're working on, kind of working through the final stages here. We're working on a series called Misspelled, which is sort of what I dubbed a story where fantasy gets turned upside down, and you have a role in this upcoming production. So can you give us a little synopsis of your role in this fantasy series coming up here soon?
Sure. So, not to give anything too much away, but anyway, I'm a dog, and you might say, "Oh, that's weird. How can you be a dog? Aren't you supposed to be acting? Dogs don't act." Well, I'm a talking dog.
There it is.
So. No, I don't think that gives anything away. At least I hope not. But,
no, I don't think so. I think it's standard fare to say animals talk in a lot of stories and a lot of productions.
So so I'm a little dog, and and I do a little dog voice. I do some roughs, rough, That was
is that your best rough? Is that your best rough?
Well, it's more like kind of like that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. I don't want to spoil it too much. If they need a reason to tune in. If I give all the woofs now,
Well, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, okay, listeners, like if you want to hear the best of the best woofs and roughs, be sure that when the series comes out down the road that you tune in to hear Matthew's roughs and woofs.
Yeah, I didn't know I could woof. But yeah, we sort of worked on it. I think this was sort of in the auditions. We sort of got that voice, I suppose, and we sort of worked on different things. And then eventually, yeah, we sort of got sort of the right sound for this dog. Um, and like particularly like doing like these, roughs and stuff. It's more roughs than woofs, I'd say.
So it
Um,
sounds like it's kind of rough to rough when you're trying to get it right.
it's pretty rough. Yeah, let me tell you. Honestly, it is because it's a little with my voice sometimes it can be a little hard, honestly. So yeah, it is rough and rough. Yeah, honestly.
So
But yeah, so
go
it's
ahead.
fun and yeah, and you sort of need to figure out kind of how this character should sound because dogs don't actually talk. So you figure, okay, well, how should this character talk? So we sort of got like a high pitched voice. My voice is already a little bit high, so we kind of did something with that. And yeah, to sort of imagine like sort of if this dog, if this little dog here talks, what should that sound like? And you incorporate like some other dog sounds, like some sniffing, and maybe some licking sometimes. And yeah, of course, the roughs. So yeah, it was pretty neat. I didn't know I could really do stuff like that with my voice until we tried it. Because why would I?
Why would any
Why would I
normal
know that?
person just walk around and randomly woof and rough?
Yeah.
So here's a question. So I'm curious, were any of your scenes under the direction of your brother?
Yeah. Well, pretty much all the stuff I did in the studio. Both John and Gretelin were there. The stuff I've been doing since then, within the past year, particularly the last month or so, yeah, has been with John. And John's I've worked with John before, of course. Like outside of the audio theater, he's directed me.
Sure.
When we do film projects together, he's typically the director. With the three of us, when us three brothers do film projects, and sometimes with my experience in theater, like in high school or in college, John would be directing. So I've had experience, so I know what to expect. It wasn't anything shocking when I got to work with him or anything like that.
Wait,
Um,
I want to interject there because
yeah.
you hear sometimes people say don't work with family. The last thing you want to do is work with family. But it sounds to me like you've got a good setup there with your brothers, with John and your other brother
Hmm.
Peter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It,
Well.
it just I just wanted to sort of emphasize that it's I don't want to say that it's perfect all the time, but it's got to be nice to sort of have a family, to have your siblings, have your brothers, be interested in something together, and you can sort of share in that experience because I think a lot of times, and it would be perfectly understandable to just have siblings who are like,
Mhm.
well, I'm interested in this. I want to do this. I want to do this. And, they all go off
Mhm.
on their own paths. But to be able to sort of have, creative interests amongst the three of you, and then to be able to work together to help create something, that just sounds, at least to
Uh-huh.
me, it sounds like a nice opportunity.
Well, I said I worked with them. I never said I liked working with them.
Ah,
No, I'm
there it
kidding. I'm
is.
kidding.
There it is.
No, but yeah, no, you're right. It is nice that we sort of have like similar interests and stuff like that. So yeah, it does make it good to work together. Yeah, that's not necessarily I might feel like that's the case always because that's the case with me. But no, I mean, yeah, not necessarily. You might have, even if your siblings, a lot of siblings have very different interests and are very different people. So yeah, that is nice. We sort of mesh together. We can work well together. And like you said, of course, it is difficult. And I can only imagine as you go through life and you try to do things more ambitious, that it gets harder and harder. But at the same time, yeah, I think it is probably easier than working with others that I could work with, because I think there's a little bit more understanding. There's a little bit more trust. When you're working with other people, you sort of need to really get to know them first, make sure you really mesh with them. And I think finding like good partners with things, it can be very difficult. I mean, it's sort of like dating or marriage or anything like that. Like, it's not easy necessarily to find the right person, you know. And the same type of thing like with like a partner or something like that, like a professional partner. Yeah, I mean, you need to find someone who sort of complements your skill sets, but also but you're on the same page enough, you know, and you have like temperaments that work together. So so yeah, that is good. So we worked a lot together as well. So that's part of it. We sort of always been working on things together. So I'm sure that's a big aspect of this. Why we're able to work on things together now. So it's because we've sort of been doing it the whole time.
Well, that's great, and it's just me reiterating what I thought earlier, and you
Mm-hmm.
kind of
Yeah,
you
you're right.
confirmed
Mm-hmm.
that's just great, and
Uh-huh.
glad that family can come together and work on something like our upcoming production, Misspelled.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up here, I'm curious, any particular desires for your involvement with audio theater down the road?
Well, I'm not sure. I want to keep, lending my voice to things in ways that I can. Yeah, if stuff that I'm a good fit for, I'm always here. Yeah, I mean, no grand ambitions or anything. Just whenever if there's a role that like really fits me, or if you need an extra voice for something, yeah, I'll just be around to lend a hand. Maybe I'll write something in the future. We'll see. But yeah, we'll see. I'll just always be around to do a little bit of voice work, as needed, as it could be helpful.
But if we ever needed a WAOB Audio Theater video game, we could reach out
Hmm.
to you for that?
Potentially, yeah, you
Potentially.
potentially could.
Okay.
Yeah, because yeah,
Well, we'll see. We'll see what's in store down the road for you for audio theater, and I want to make sure I thank you for taking some time out of your schedule to be with us
sure,
on the show.
sure. Yeah, well, thanks for having me come on.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking with Matthew Wojtechko, one of our voice actors, one of our volunteers for audio theater. I invite you to visit our webpage or go to our YouTube channel and look up Imaginary Twin and be on the lookout for Misspelled, which will be coming out in the end of the summer 2021. And hopefully that will be an experience for everyone, especially those who were involved, like Matthew, who will get to hear himself roof and woof. And we'll see how it all plays out. But again, thanks, Matthew, for being with us. And I want to thank the listeners for taking time to tune in to this episode of The Table of Content. Until next time, be good, stay safe, peace.